Welcome everybody to the Podman community meeting. Today is April 5th, 2022. We have a number of great topics today to discuss, but before we hop into that real quickly, just go over what this meeting is all about. It's the ongoing meeting. Well, it's not on the day of the month, it's on the first Tuesday of the even month, so I'll have to change that. We may change the timing from time to time. Topics are driven from prior meetings or by people going ahead and sending me a note. We can also add stuff to the discussions if you want to. We'll take discussions not only about Podman, but for Builda, Scopio, or any of the other container tool technologies that you might be interested in. And I've got a list here and in the chat for the meeting notes where I'll be taking care of the notes today. Please feel free to correct me if you see me typing in something wrong, or if you want to add, or if you have links that go with your discussion, please add them there. And also please add yourself to the attendees list if you're not already on that. And then for the topics today, we're going to be talking first about Docker Compose v2 and Podman 4.02 update from Matt. We'll be going into Ubuntu 22.04 LTS and Stopping Kubic support from Lokesh. Then Brent will be talking about Podman volume mounts on the Mac with a demo, I think. Not 100% sure on the demo part of it. And then Ashley will be wrapping us up with a Podman Desktop update. And then after that, we'll have time, hopefully, for any topics or questions that you have. So, without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Matt.
Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can share just... All right, so I have an estimate here. I am going to link this in the chat for anyone who wants to follow along, because I can't actually make this any bigger, and I can't actually share a terminal, unfortunately. But anyways, this is going to be a relatively quick demo of Compose v2 against Docker. So, or against Podman, rather. Normally it only works against Docker. Docker Compose v2.0 came out a few months back, and we have not supported it until now, but it will be supported with the next Podman minor release, 4.10. We're not planning on backporting this to 4.0, unfortunately. And we have Docker Compose 2.2.3 here. 2.10 or higher is required because 2.0 only supports BuildKit as a build backend, which we do not support at the moment. We're looking to add that eventually. This is Podman 4.0-dev, which is basically the current main branch. And I have a Podman server running against that. And we're going to use one of the Podman test suite's compose files. We have a relatively simple one that just sets up a couple of HTTP servers. Environment variables are tested as well, but generally speaking, this is enough to prove that we are spinning up containers. And we're going to use detach here just so it doesn't obscure the screen. We can keep going. We have 2 starting containers. And we have 2 running web servers. As you can see, we have a port 5000 here, port 5001 here, 5000, 5001, both accessible. And let's just bring it down, make sure it cleans up. And PS, it would help if I actually change the correct directory for this. PS says nothing left. So we have Compose v2 running natively against Podman, and this is a pretty major thing. We thought this was going to be a lot more difficult than it actually is, and you can look forward to this in Podman 4.1, which hopefully will be arriving around the end of April. I believe Tom also scheduled me for a brief status update on where Podman 4.0 is, where it's going, and what we expect next. We just released Podman 4.03, which is a collection of bug fixes and also one minor CVE fix. Recommend you upgrade for the CVE, even if it is just minor. Podman 404, not sure when that's coming out or if it's coming out at this point. If we get enough bug fixes, we might do one, but at this point we've gone about 6 weeks since the original release of 4.0, and we're starting to think more of a 4.1 as opposed to a 4.4. We are also probably going to cut a Podman 3.4.5 at some point this week, also for a CVE fix. If you're on 4.0, I would continue being on 4.0. This is mostly just for distributions that are stuck on Podman 3.4 because they don't want to do a major version upgrade without bumping the distro version itself. So, yeah, I think that is about it. Any questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Yeah, and then I will add also that RHEL is coming out very shortly on RHEL 8.6 and 9.0, and Podman 4.03 will be out there, and Builda 1.24 point something, which I'm forgetting the number, I think 2. So it's all good for that, and that should be coming out in late May on RHEL, if folks are into, well, RHEL. So the next up, we have Lokesh talking about Ubuntu.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Cool. So yeah, this is just a quick announcement. Ubuntu 22.04 LTS is available for March 31st. This is going to be the first LTS release with Podman, Builda, and Scopio in the default repos, with full credit to the official Debian and Ubuntu maintainer, Reinhard Hartler, and his team. The package versions available currently are Podman 3.4, Builda 1.23, and Scopio 1.4. There won't be any further updates to the Kubic repos as far as Podman, Builda, and Scopio are concerned. So users are recommended to use the default repos on 22.04 LTS. And if you're currently using packages from the Kubic repos, it's highly recommended to uninstall the Kubic packages prior to upgrading to 22.04 LTS. So that's about it. Tom, back to you. Or any questions?
I broke up a little bit on the versions of Podman, Builda, and Scopio that you listed, Lokesh. Could you just repeat that?
Oh, okay. So yes, 22.04 LTS will have Podman 3.4, Builda 1.23, and Scopio 1.4.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions for
And oh, by the way, this announcement will also be going out to the podman.io blog. People can find it there as well.
Right, I'm not hearing any other questions. So next up for today, we have Podman volume mounts on the Mac. Brent Bodie, go for it. Brent, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Just give me a second here.
Okay.
Your blue jeans threw me for a loop today.
Yes, I've been contemplating going back to Google Meet instead.
Yeah, I'm gonna need at least go to the next person because
Alrighty.
I had to switch over and I'm re-rigging the demo.
Okay. Ashley, want to talk about Podman Desktop?
Yep, let me share my screen. Let's see. Oh, I need to restart because I'm on the Mac and its permissions are not letting me share my screen. So also give me a second.
Tom, you're muted at the moment.
Oh, yeah, me and the mute button. Do we have any other questions that people have in general that they want to bring forth today? Yes, I think we're going to have to wait and see who wins the race here, either Ashley or Brent.
I'll throw out a question, so we're waiting.
Sure.
I'm Lance. I'm actually having a conversation in the Discord thread as well. But if somebody wants to maybe walk me through what happens with standard out and standard error when you're in journal D mode. I'm seeing some things appear when I run container logs, and I'm seeing other output that goes straight into the host journal control. And I'm trying to figure out how to get everything into journal control so I can, monitor it on an unattended system.
Valentin or Giuseppe, any thoughts on that? I do not know.
I think it's best to open an issue. I didn't follow the chat. So if I understood you correctly, you want to have the logs and standard error and standard out all on the journal?
Right. Well, I mean, at a high level, I'm just, I'm trying to understand, like, when you're running in journal DLogging, and the container is logging, and you say, okay, Podman container logs, right? That makes sense to me. But then that output doesn't get put into the host journal. And I've seen examples otherwhere, where people they volume map dev log, from the container into the host. And I don't know if that's a 3.0 thing or if that is still valuable to map dev log to get things into the host journal. It's kind of confusing to me what journal delogging is actually doing.
Devlog, I think, is more of a systemd and a container thing. If you have systemd inside the container, you might want to do that to get logs from the systemd in the container to the systemd on the system.
Okay, yeah, I'm not doing that. I mean, I'm not running systemd in a container. So up until now, I've just been doing Podman run, right? Because I'm just developing it. But I'm about to transition, an unattended system. So I'm kind of moving everything into being run by systemd services. But yeah.
You should see the output in journal control.
In which scenario? In both scenarios? Like if it's run either way?
Standard. So if you use the journal D log driver, you should see the logs when using journal control afterwards. I'll dump something in the chat. I have to look it up. I'm not sure if journal CTL will display it by default though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just doing a journal control -F. But yeah, I can post some things into the chat as I'm just trying to wrap my mind around like what exactly is happening and where are things going.
Alrighty. Well, that was a good pause there. Brent, who is sharing here? Is that Brent or Ashley?
Me. I'm sharing. Ashley is sharing.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if you're ready to go, Ashley, and you've got the share, go for it.
Sure. So a little update on Podman Desktop. So we kind of abandoned the idea of using the Swift for a more a different UI that does more things, such as actually manage containers as well. So we're working on this with like more UI people, not just our team. So right now I'm just going to do a quick demo of what we have so far. This is written in Electron, TypeScript, and Svelte. With like Node.js and everything, so kind of the web dev stack, but as a desktop application. So if I just do a yarn watch, the GUI should pop up with a few errors, but that's not on the Podman side, so we should be fine. So here you can manage like Podman machine in theory. Right now, I think there's parts of that are broken at the current moment, but you can also manage containers using this GUI now. You can create containers using Docker files or container files or from an existing image. And so if you pull an image using the terminal, I think in the future we would be able to do it in the GUI itself, but right now in the terminal you would have to pull it and it would show up in the GUI, and then you can create a container from the existing image by like pressing play and like making a container out of it, and it would create a container. You're able to kind of inspect it. You get its like ID, what command, the state, and then the logs will show up here. Or if you set a terminal like a TTY, you would be able to control the container from the GUI. So this GUI does a lot more than our previous one did. The previous one just kind of maintained Podman machines. This one actually deals with containers as well as maintaining machines. And then there's other extensions onto this GUI. So if you wanted to like migrate from like Podman to like OpenShift or stuff, or code-ready containers or stuff like that, you're able to. But I'm not an expert in like the code-ready containers area. But it's just kind of a more robust GUI that does a lot more stuff than we did before. Oh, and there's also like a systray, but I think the Podman part is a little. We're working on the Podman part of the systray, so.
Alrighty. Do we have any timeframes that we're committing to for this, Ashley, or still work in progress for later?
Still work in progress. There's like a lot of things to consider. A lot of work is being done in this area.
Right. Any other questions, Ashley?
If you're looking to, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, if you're looking to contribute, this is in GitHub containers/desktop. And there's a lot more people working on this than just the Podman team.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cross-team collaborative effort, I would call it. But if you're into like TypeScript or GUIs, the link is GitHub Containers Desktop.
Great, thank you, Ashley. All right, Brent, give it another go.
Okay. Any chance you can see that?
Yep.
As long as it's a white screen with a few letters up top. Yep.
Is that large enough?
It
All
is
right.
for me.
Better? Better.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Okay. So I was asked to just come in and actually show volume mounts working on the Mac. If you've already got it working, then you basically have seen this, but what I've done is I've already started a machine so nobody has to sit here and wait, but I'll show you the init command, which is that the volume mount, which is designated by the -v, I did it from $home on the Mac to $home in the VM. And so when that runs, that will be done with 9p, a binding from the Mac to the VM. And you can see that the VM is up and running, and I have a file that sits in a directory in my home there called foo, and then a file called test, which has got some text in it. And what we can do is we can take this and run a container, and note that it's in this users format because we're on a Mac, and I'm just going to mount that to mount home. And then Alpine, bin share. So I'm going to start a container, or run one rather, that takes the volume mount now from the VM and mounts it into my container that is based off Alpine container image and dropped to a shell. And then if we go in here and look at the file, we can see it perfectly. We can also modify it, and there are no permissions issues due to some little stuff we're doing in the back. And I should largely thank Anders for his contributions for this, who was a community member. He really laid down all the structure for this, and we just had to come in and do a little bit of tweaking on it. And I think that's about it. Any questions before I stop sharing?
Nope.
All right. Back to everyone else.
All right, thank you, Brent. All right, that's all that we had on the agenda for today, other than open forum topics. Are there any other questions? Comments? And did you have anything that's upcoming that you wanted to talk about?
Who?
Dan? If Dan had anything upcoming, or Brent?
Nope.
Yeah, I can forecast a little bit. In 4.1, I didn't catch all of what Matt talked about, but 4.1 should bring some significant changes and enhancements to Podman Machine. There'll also be a Podman Machine Inspect command that should be in 4.1. And some of the work Matt is doing, trying to rig up some liveness probes, similar to Kubernetes, should be in there as well. So 4.1 is shaping up to have a couple of neat features in there.
Great. Hey, does anybody else have anything? No, we'll call it a short meeting this time and look forward to the next one. Okay, well, given that, next time for the next meeting, we've got up a Podman on Windows demo. Jason Green's committed to coming in and giving us a demo there for that. And that next meeting will be on June 7th, 2021, and we're shooting again for 11 a.m. The next Cabal meeting will be a little bit sooner. There's one coming up in April, at the end of not the end of this month, just about 2 weeks away from now, April 21st on Thursday at 11 a.m. Happy to have you there too. That one we just discuss more about design rather than demoing kind of things as we do in this one. So unless anybody has one last chance for topics or questions, we're going to end the meeting and thank everybody for being here today.